This is Reuters. I'm Frederik Richter in Bahrain at the 2010 Islamic Banking and Finance Summit. Joining us today is Samir Abdi, Head of Islamic Finance at Ernst & Young. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I would like to start by asking you, Islamic Finance has been mostly active in investment banking, making investments in real estate, but has struggled to develop a large-scale retail segment, which would be very helpful in developing sustainable profits. Why is that?
Well, Frederick, I think there's a couple of reasons why that has happened. First of all, there are banks in the Islamic space that have a sizable retail proposition, but largely localized in terms of geography. The banks that have tried to go outside of their local geographies. Kuwait Finance House, for example, Al-Rajhi Bank, for example, Dubai Islamic Bank is another example, which has tried to diversify geographically into other markets. And Al Baraka Bank has that advantage as well, that it has been in other retail markets as well. Why it hasn't happened is because in the last 10 years, the focus largely was on the investment banking side of the business. The returns were very decent in the investment business. Retail was, I wouldn't say ignored, but in some ways was probably playing second position to the investment business. And that now is going to change because retail, again, as we've seen, many banks have announced their intention to refocus their businesses on retail and commercial banking.
But do you think these regional banks could compete with the large conventional players, such as the HSBCs, the Citis of this world?
Well, they can definitely compete, but it comes down to building scale in the retail business and, of course, having patience, because building a sustainable and profitable retail book takes time. And at the same time, that you're not working in isolation of the rest of the marketplace. You do have the HSBCs and the Citibanks and the Standard Charters playing in those same markets with you, with a very sizable retail book and history behind them. So it's about being competitive, it's about building scale, and it's about really having the patience to see it through over a longer term period. And this is where shareholders and boards have to also come into play and have the right objectives behind the retail business.
And at some point, there was a lot of expectation that banks from this region could penetrate Western markets and set up Islamic retail operations there. But do you think, when you look at those minority Muslim populations in the West, would they switch their accounts to Muslim banks just for the sake of their religion?
Well, the likelihood is that some of them would, but it is unlikely that the vast majority would switch immediately. Those institutions that go into non-Muslim countries where there are Muslim populations need to have a pretty strong and competitive commercial proposition for those customers. They have to have the right products that are market oriented. They have to have the right pricing, and they have to have the right level of service that those customers are used to. So it is possible, it is doable, but it does take time to build those propositions, and I think those banks may need to develop a much stronger proposition in their home markets first, before they export into those sort of countries like France, Germany, and continental Europe.
Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Fred.
That was Samir Abdi, Head of Islamic Finance at Ernst & Young, at the 2010 Reuters Islamic Banking and Finance Summit in Bahrain. I'm Frederik Richter. Thank you very much for joining us.